Maruti reported what was a mixed set of auto sales. For the month of April, domestic sales witnessed a growth of around 8.5%, while exports slipped by nearly around 8%. Sonia, in fact, did catch up with the company's Senior Executive Officer, Marketing and Sales, Shashank Srivastava, and started by asking him about their retail numbers and the demand situation.
Retail was a little muted, I would say. Because even if you look at the overall industry, the wholesale numbers grew healthy 13%. Maruti Suzuki's passenger vehicle domestic numbers grew about 12%. So overall in the industry, 331,000 sale against 294,000 of last year. However, on the retail side, we saw a little muted because, the overall retail was only 285,000 against about 276,000 of last year, so flattish numbers there. And this difference between wholesale and retail obviously adds up into the dealer inventory. So the dealer inventory for the industry has gone up to about 254,000 units, up from 200,000 that it was at the beginning of the month. And after a long time, we see that this 3.5 week of inventory, which is sort of a normal inventory, and therefore we have to carefully watch how the situation goes from here.
Okay, so you're saying that retail sales were a bit muted for the industry at 285,000 and you need to watch the situation carefully. So what kind of domestic growth are you looking at? Do you think this single digit 7 to 8% growth that we've clocked in for Maruti itself is something that can continue in the next couple of months as well? Or given how high the inventory is and the muted growth situation, do you think it could be slower than that in the upcoming months?
So we haven't really revised our estimates for the industry. Still remains at 5 to 7% growth. So roughly 4.05 to 4.1 million is the projection still. And Maruti Suzuki, we expect the growth higher than the industry, largely because of the new SUV models that we have introduced, the Fronx and the Jimny, and also that for the full year, we will have the effect of the Grand Vitara, which last year we had introduced only 6 months before the financial end. That was in September 2022 that we introduced the Grand Vitara. So we are expecting to grow faster than the industry, and we haven't really changed those projections at the moment. Yes, in the month of April, we had been affected because of the semiconductor component issue. That obviously is something which we are still battling with, especially for many of our models which have got long waiting periods. Q1, I suppose, we will continue to see that effect of semiconductor short supply as far as components are concerned.
In the quarter gone by, there were some price hikes undertaken due to which the realizations went up as well. Any more price hikes on the anvil, or do you think it would be hard to undertake price hikes given how sticky the demand situation is?
Really the price hikes and price changes depend on the movement of commodity prices, because that affects the material cost, which affects the component cost, and component cost is roughly 75-77% of the overall auto OEM's cost structure. So you are right. In January, we took the price increases. Also in April, by the way, most of the OEMs did in response to the BS6 Phase 2 norms and the OBD2 norms that kicked in from 1st April. Going forward, difficult for me to predict, because while the commodity prices have sort of softened a little bit in the last few weeks, especially when you look at copper or aluminium or the rare earths, but the steel has gone up 6-7 rupees, expected to go up a little bit further. So I think we are very closely monitoring the situation to see how much is the cost structure changing. It will largely depend on the movement of the commodity prices.
All right. Exports have been under pressure this time, almost an 8% fall year-on-year in wholesales. How were retails? Was it as weak? And also, do you expect the weakness in exports to continue? If yes, which are the markets that are still a bit under pressure?
Actually, the export numbers, that is reported as shipment figures, actual sales happen, after the ship reaches the destination, and then it goes to the distributor, and then to the dealers, and finally to the consumers. Normally, there is a 3-month lag. So these number differences, which you are saying, largely the ship scheduling differences, not too much to be read into it. On an overall basis, if you see Maruti Suzuki's export number 259,000 last year, we expect export number this year to go up from this 259,000. So we are still saying that there is going to be a growth in the export market. Of course, the top continents where we export are Africa. We have Africa, Latin America, ASEAN, and Middle East. Top countries, if you drill down, actually have been for last year, for example, been Saudi Arabia, Chile, South Africa, Ivory Coast, and so on. We expect that the demand to be continue to be robust on the export front this year as well.
Okay, so demand will be robust on the exports front, and you're expecting a growth. So for the industry as well as for Maruti, what kind of export growth are we looking at? Overall growth, you said, would be 5 to 7% for the passenger vehicle industry. But break it up for us in terms of what domestic growth would be and where would exports feature?
So export growth for the other manufacturers is difficult because there's no estimate of export projections. We were around the 6 lakh overall export for the passenger vehicles from India last year, and I would expect it to go up this year. However, and unlike domestic, there is no real projection because every manufacturer, depending on his capacities, follow a different strategy for export. So I can only say that from a Maruti perspective, we see a growth. And also from an overall number in the industry, I would expect a growth in exports as well.
Okay, so that's the management of Maruti. The stock is up around